How many times has this story been repeated across the universe? A race of sentient beings develops the technology to begin exploring its own solar system and imagining the universe at large, but burns itself out by exhausting its host planet long before it gets within cooey of whatever it seeks. Hi there. This fortnight at Philosophilia, we're taking a break from commentary on the British royal family as a signifier of the slow motion collapse of Western civilization to bring you a public service announcement. 5 things to know about the apocalypse. Apocalypse is a Greek word for revelation, but thanks to John of Patmos, who wrote the final book of the Bible, today the only revelation we call an apocalypse is the end of the world as we know it. It's always seemed supremely ironic to me that from the Enlightenment onwards, as the church lost its grip on the state and people began to realize that Jesus really isn't coming back and God has no grand plan to conclude this messy world and take us all somewhere better, from that moment in history, we started building an apocalypse of our own. Our apocalypse, though global, won't happen everywhere all at once. The end of the world as we know it will lack the satisfying singularity and glorious conclusion of the biblical apocalypse. We will stumble into it without realizing it has begun. It has already begun. Some weeks ago, climate scientists on Twitter shifted from grim urgency and frustration to shock, confusion, and outright fear. They shared graphs like this one about temperature anomalies in the North Atlantic and this one about Antarctic sea ice. We have passed a tipping point. The end will drag out for decades, but the slide to climate chaos has begun. There's no easy way to say this. We're all going to see more violent, untimely death than we can yet bear to imagine. This is what the apocalypse means. More floods, worse wildfires, more earthquakes and stronger tornadoes, more deaths from heat stroke, plague, starvation, war and natural disaster, more crop failures and supply chain collapses and public health emergencies, more vicious corporate greed and clamorous disinformation campaigns and authoritarian governments. The harder it becomes to live, the harder and more brutal we as a species will become. James Lovelock, originator of the Gaia hypothesis, estimated that by 2100, Earth's population would be reduced to around 500 million people. We know what's causing the problem, and we have the means to fix it. What we lack is enough people willing to insist on fast and effective action. Hopefully this will change as the situation worsens. As climate change bites, shifting attitudes may enable nations to move rapidly to sustainable solutions. But it's already too late to save most of what we take for granted, and many economies simply won't bend far enough, so eventually they'll break. Protect yourself in a broken economy by fostering a caring community and tradable skills now. Even amid disaster, there are things you can do to make it better. We can't always avert, but we can alleviate. Try to stay patient and kind. Do whatever you can to preserve hope, love, and generosity of spirit. Read and follow climate scientists like Rose M. Mutiso, Michael E. Mann, Kate Marvel, and Bill McKibben. Fight for what matters, not just because that'll help us get it, but because fighting is energizing, a validation, a chance of winning. Fight to preserve the best of human culture and achievement, whether from the imperial cultures or the ancient clans. Get behind every sustainable project you see. Grow whatever food you can, and for the love of all that's wise, get yourself a solar power bank.